Thank you all for joining us today. I am Amanda Baker with Visit North Carolina and the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina. We also have Heidi Walters and Guy Gaster with us, if you'd like to both introduce yourselves.
Sure. Heidi Walters. I work with Amanda and the Partner and Industry Relations portion of Visit NC. And I am here to see if I can support Amanda and answer any questions.
And I'm Guy Gaster with the North Carolina Film Office, and our legislation is what was used as the bones for this esports production event grant. So here to assist and provide guidance from my 5+ years with the film grant.
Great, and so thankful to have both of them on the call today. We are just going to touch base a little bit on esports and then the new esports grant that we do have for North Carolina. Just to give a little bit of background, I think you folks are already familiar with what esports is, but esports is defined as a multiplayer video game played with competitively with spectators. Typically, professional gamers play this. Prizes are available for the best players. And esports can be held in a variety of locations. Esports can be held in convention centers, theaters, hotel ballrooms, and college campuses. The audience skews young, with 79% of viewers and participants that are under 35 years old. Also, just something to consider as well, that back in December of 2021, Esports Travel Summit presented by the Sports Travel Planner, they shared a couple interesting facts about esports and the pandemic's effect on esports. They actually found that the appeal of online video gaming grew during the pandemic, which is something that we're excited to see here in North Carolina. This is some additional data that comes along with having attended the Esports Summit with Sports Travel Media back in December of 2021. With the pandemic, obviously it did fuel the growth of esports. The audience of Twitch and YouTube is larger than HBO, Netflix, and ESPN combined. The pandemic fueled this growth. In 2020, Twitch's viewership was up 83%, increasing to 17 billion hours watched. And YouTube recorded 10 billion hours watched, which is twice the viewing hours of 2019. Esports fans have indicated a higher desire to return to in-person events than the traditional sports fans. And esports fans are considered to be more passionate about travel, have higher disposable income, and spend more when traveling than the general population. According to CSL, 88% of convention and visitors bureaus and 79% of venues said they had a strong or highly significant interest in hosting esports events. CSL International and its partners at the Esports Entry Advisory have conducted research on the esports event industry. If you're interested in more research on esports, I do recommend that you check out their data online. This is just a couple of snippets that I'll share with you from December. And this is actually critical venue factors, and that young gamers are looking more for interactivity of events, and on-site entertainment is far more desired. So activations are important for this demographic, but you can also see things like large video displays, food outlets, world-class audio systems are important for these gamers as well. And when looking at what makes an in-person esports event most attractive to esports gamers and fans, you can see that it's a variety of factors. The video game title does play a large part. Also, attending in person with friends, large video displays, world-class audio systems, the host venue itself, high-end production, watching an event in person with other fans, having pro players, the ability to participate in an open tournament themselves, the event organizer, as well as influencers. So North Carolina wants to be a part of this and has established the North Carolina Esports Industry Grant Fund. North Carolina's Esports Incentive, which is a 25% rebate on qualifying esports expenses and purchases while in state. It demonstrates North Carolina's long-term commitment to the esports community and the industry. It's the first of its kind. You can actually download the combined version of establishing legislation and modifications on sportsnc.com. But as you can see here are some of the different General Assembly and different legislation that you might want to look at as well. But this can all be found on sportsnc.com. So how did we get to where we are today? First, the legislation was established, and then it was passed on to the Department of Commerce to manage. As a contractor of the Department of Commerce, the EDPNC, under the brand of Sports NC, will be marketing the rebate, collecting and sharing the completed applications with Commerce, and overall acting as a liaison between Commerce and the applicants. Commerce will be the one that will ultimately approve and deny the applications. But they were the ones who interpreted the legislation, initially established the guidelines, held public comment on those guidelines and approved them, and then established the application as well. So what we'll be doing as Sports NC and the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina is marketing that to potential applicants and acting as that liaison between the Department of Commerce and the applicants. Now, if we take a look at the Esports Industry Grant Fund and all that is within the guidelines, this general information can also be found on sportsnc.com, but this is a 25% rebate on direct spending within the state via funds established by the North Carolina Esports Industry Grant. Per project cap, there isn't really a per project cap, but it is noted that the program can only officially offer up to $5 million per fiscal year. The minimum spend is $150,000 per event, and that annual offering cap is for the North Carolina fiscal year, which runs July 1st through June 30th. Qualified labor, the first 1 million of each resident and non-resident qualifies, and then loan out withholding is allowed with 4% of out of state. There will be an audit that's required. An independent North Carolina certified public accountant will be needed to perform this audit at the cost to the production. There is a screen credit which will be required, and that's a logo that will be supplied by me at EDPNC. There's also additional opportunities that the production must make marketing opportunities available to the state, and there are qualifying expenses. So that includes things like goods, services, rentals, compensation and wages, fringes, per diems, living expenses, and stipends. For an application, they would need to ask for the application, which they can do so by contacting me. My phone number and email are here, and they can also be found on sportsnc.com. And there is no sunset date. So I know I just went through a lot of information, but this information is still available to you online as well. Now we'll dig a little bit deeper into this. So with the 25% rebate on qualified spend, and they must have a direct spend of at least $150,000. And that's like at the minimum. Those are the things that you're going to want to be able to remember and share with esports applicants. The rebate would have to go to the applicant. So the applicant will need to be the event's rights holder, production company, not a venue or a host destination, but the person who is actually putting on the event. And they must apply in advance. So this application request would come from the event's rights holder to me, and I would provide that to them. But again, just noting that that money would need to be or will be paid back to the applicant and cannot be funneled through the venue or anything along those lines. And there will be a post-event audit, which needs to be done by the independent North Carolina licensed CPA. This is not the own events rights holders finance department. They will need to hire someone to do that. This is a process. So beyond the application, there will be additional things that if someone gets approved, they will end up having to complete for state government. in order to get paid. So just something to keep in mind there, that while the application is a part of the process, it's not the entire process should they get approved. This does need to be a broadcasted event. So it's not just the event itself, but it needs to be streamed online or broadcast in some way in order to qualify. So also one thing to keep in mind is that this is a new program. We're the only state to do it right now. So there are changes that are likely to come as this progresses and we have new learnings from it. You can direct anyone who's interested in applying for the Esports Grant Fund to myself, and I'll send an application link to them. You will have to have them disclose, or within the application, the event applicant will need to disclose their anticipated spend figures. And Commerce is also asking to know if any local incentives have been offered or accepted. We will need to know the amount of those incentives as well. And incentives could be cash incentives, break on facility rentals, etc. This isn't to say that if you're giving a local incentive that the state will offer less. If there is a local incentive, it actually shows that there's local buy-in for the event, which is a good thing that Commerce does look at as well. The maximum award amount will come from the application. So they will need to disclose their anticipated spend figures broken down into individual line items because it's up to a 25% rebate. So we need to know that it's 25% of what. It doesn't really pay to inflate those numbers on anticipated spend because the audit will back up the spend. If there's been any sort of inflation, it doesn't mean that they'll get that money in the end. There could be some contingency funding in their spend estimates if they'd like. The state will write a check for less than the agreed upon maximum award, but they will not write one for more. So just something to keep in mind there as well. Let's see. The review will typically be done within 14 days, but it's guaranteed to be completed within 30. And once approved, production will have to accept the state's offer, and then they will enter into an official contract. So the state will send an offer to the applicant. The applicant has to officially accept the offer. Then a contract will be sent by the state, which essentially is what binds the state to fulfill the terms of the agreement. Sorry, back up here. So we're going to dig a little bit deeper into the qualified spends. The guidelines included on sportsnc.com include an exhibit that is primarily geared towards the auditors, but it talks about some of the things that count as a qualified spend, including labor. Labor work being performed in the state qualifies, whether they are from in-state or out-of-state, with the one caveat that they have to pay North Carolina payroll tax or North Carolina withholding taxes need to be taken out. So for example, if a company is from California and they do not set up as North Carolina as a place to work, then the auditor will kick those costs out. Or if contracted by 1099, those will not count either. Venue rentals do qualify, as do goods and services acquired from North Carolina vendors. Lodging and travel also qualifies. If they go to Hilton's website to book directly through Hilton.com, that would not count. But if they do contact the local Hilton within your downtown areas, that would count if they book directly through the hotel within your destination. Airfare also counts if they secure it through a North Carolina-based travel agent, but purchasing through Expedia or directly with Delta, that wouldn't count. Another item just to be aware of is that if they were purchasing services or goods through Amazon, that would not count, even though they have a strong presence in North Carolina. They wouldn't count as an in-state vendor because there's no way to verify that the good and labor has been done in the state on that specific order. So what the audit finds is what the final rebate will be based on. So this will be done at the expense of the rights holder or the event rights organizer and does not count as a qualified expense. And again, that audit findings are part of the overall closeout process. And it is based on the final actual rebate payout amount is based on the audit findings. So if the production anticipated spending $105,000 and the audit finds that they only spent $100,000, then the rebate amount would be based on the $100,000. There is a 45-day closeout process, assuming no questions or additional information is requested by EDP&C or Commerce from closeout materials. So once the whole process is complete and payments are done, there will be an annual report that shows what those payment amounts were. So whoever the applicant of record is, that info will be shared via the annual Department of Revenue report. That will include the name, the rebate amount, and where the event took place. And this is a very important note that per legislation, only $5 million can be offered per fiscal year. So the legislation specifically states that Commerce can only make up to $5 million in offerings per fiscal year. That does not say that Commerce can only pay $5 million. It does not say Commerce can only award $5 million. Specifically states $5 million can be offered, and that's official offers. So we need your help on being smart about what is officially offered or officially extended to an event. If you have an event that's coming and official application has been submitted, an official offer has been extended of $500,000, and that event decides to go elsewhere, that $500,000 is subtracted from the total offer in the pool. It does not go back into the pool. So we would only have $4,500,000 to offer for the remainder of the year, even though the event didn't come to North Carolina. So if you can give me a heads up, quick call, an email, if you're in talks with someone and an application is likely. This way, offers that are being made for someone who maybe hasn't been contacted you about venues, it can really help us determine the legitimacy of the event and hopefully help us prevent making any offers to events that wouldn't actually book and come to North Carolina. There is no set application period or time frame, but should be submitted in advance of the event, and keeping in mind that it does take Commerce time to review the application before the event takes place. An awardee has 3 years from offer date to complete the project and have the project close. And a generic anticipation letter could be provided as part of the bid process to help ease some concerns that they may have about getting or being offered the grant. So I can provide you with an anticipation letter that could help with your initial bidding process, simply stating that the state has this program and this is what it does. This is what you can expect to receive if this is how much you spend, but it isn't an official offer. It's not a binding agreement or a guarantee, but it could help maybe ease some of those concerns for folks looking at the state and interested in this particular rebate. And part of what they would also need to provide is some additional marketing opportunities. Again, they will need to use screen credit with our logo, but there is other opportunities as well that I can discuss with them. And I've covered a lot of information here, but most of it can also still be found on sportsnc.com. There's an esports section up at the top. Click on that header there and scroll down. You'll find my contact information and a bunch of additional information that has been shared here today. And then here is my contact information as well. Should you have any questions or follow up, happy to discuss. You can also pop any questions you have in the Q&A, and I'll stop sharing now so that we can talk through any questions you might have. And let's see. I don't see any questions at the moment.
It's a lot to take in at once. So maybe people need to sit on it and think about it because there are a lot of hoops to jump through for this money. And I think that, Guy can answer this better, but, his production team is used to this because they do this all over the country. For these sports, the esports folks, it's all going to be new. So we are happy to help them and guide them through and help them make sure that they can get the monies.
And also happy to share these slides or chat one-on-one if you have specific events looking at coming to the area. We're here to help promote it and help you through the process. But again, knowing that the application actually comes from the events rights holder, if they have questions, connecting me with them so that we can go through those details and help you get that event to come to North Carolina. Well, I don't see any questions, so we wrapped it up early here. Guy, did you have anything else that you'd like to add?
I think you did a great job. Definitely, just as Amanda encouraged you, take a look at those guidelines that are available from sportsnc.com. Look over that because it does help provide information, even though it is written to the CPAs. Once you get past typical legalese speak, the information is there that is easier to understand. But it's primarily if you're obtaining goods, if you're doing work in North Carolina and paying the respective taxes on that, then it counts as a qualified expense towards your grand total for the production. So, that's the key thing is really what you're doing within North Carolina is what's counting towards that total spend amount.
All right, let's see. It looks like there might. So yes, the information I will type in the chat here for where exactly it lives on sportsnc.com. And hopefully you will see that as well. I did include the link, but it's sportsnc.com/North Carolina Esports Event Grant. And I can share out a link to all participants after this as well. All right. Well, thank you all for your time today and look forward to bringing some esports events to your destination. Have a good day.